My friends, today I want to speak directly to your heart. Have you ever experienced that gut-wrenching feeling when someone you care about deeply suddenly stops responding to your messages? When the person who once lit up at the mere sight of you now acts as if you're invisible? I know that pain, I've lived through it, and I've watched countless others stumble through the same dark valley. Let me tell you something important right now. How you respond in these moments doesn't just affect your relationship with her, it defines your relationship with yourself. The actions you take when she pulls away will either strengthen your character or expose your weaknesses. So today, I'm going to share with you the 5 critical mistakes that men make when a woman ignores them, and more importantly, what you should do instead. You see, I remember clearly the first time I experienced this. My stomach felt like it was tied in knots. My phone became both my greatest hope and my greatest torture device. I would check it constantly, wondering why she hadn't responded, creating stories in my mind about what she might be doing, who she might be with. I made every single mistake I'm about to share with you today, and I paid the price for each one. But through those painful experiences, I learned. And that learning transformed not just how I approached relationships, but how I approached myself. The wisdom I gained wasn't from books or lectures. It was written in the scars of my heart. And today, I'm offering you the chance to learn without those same scars. Before we dive deep into these mistakes, I want you to understand something fundamental. A woman's attention isn't something you can demand or manipulate into existence. It's something you earn through becoming the kind of man who naturally commands respect and interest. The strategies I'm about to share aren't tricks to get her back. They're principles for becoming the man who doesn't need to chase in the first place. So let's begin with mistake number 1, desperation. When she ignores you, the first instinct of many men is to panic. The fear of loss takes over, and suddenly you're sending multiple messages, calling repeatedly, maybe even showing up uninvited places where you know she'll be. You're essentially saying, "Please, please notice me. I need your attention to feel okay." I've been there, friends. I remember sending message after message, each one more desperate than the last. "Hey, are you there? Did I do something wrong? Please just talk to me." Each unanswered message chipping away at my dignity, my self-respect. And you know what those messages communicate? They tell her that you value her attention more than your own self-worth. Desperation isn't attractive because it signals dependence. It shows that your emotional state is entirely controlled by her actions. And no one, I repeat, no one, feels attracted to someone who places the burden of their happiness on others. It's not just unattractive, it's unfair. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't care. Caring deeply is one of the most beautiful human qualities. But there's a profound difference between caring about someone and being emotionally dependent on them. The first is love, the second is need. And need, my friends, will suffocate any relationship faster than you can imagine. So what should you do instead? When you notice she's ignoring you, take a deep breath. Remind yourself that you were a complete person before you met her, and you remain a complete person regardless of her attention. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Give her the space she's clearly communicating that she needs. One message is sufficient, something simple like, "Hey, I've noticed you seem to need some space. I respect that, and I'm here when you're ready to talk." Then, and this is the crucial part, you must actually step back. Focus on your own life, your goals, your friends, your passions. This response accomplishes something powerful. It demonstrates that while you value the relationship, you also value yourself. It shows emotional maturity and personal security. These qualities are magnetic in a way that desperation could never be. Now let's move on to mistake number 2, overanalyzing her actions. Oh, this is a big one, my friends. When she ignores you, the mind becomes a detective agency working overtime. You replay every conversation, searching for clues about what you might have done wrong. You start interpreting her social media posts as secret messages to you. You ask mutual friends if they've heard anything. I once spent 3 days analyzing a single text message she had sent before going silent. 3 days! I looked at punctuation, word choice, timing, as if the message contained some hidden code that would explain her subsequent silence. It was exhausting and ultimately pointless. This overanalysis does two harmful things. First, it keeps you mentally trapped in a cycle of anxiety and speculation. Second, it often leads to completely incorrect conclusions that can cause you to take misguided actions. The truth is that people's behavior is influenced by countless factors, many of which have absolutely nothing to do with you. Maybe she's dealing with family issues. Maybe she's overwhelmed at work. Maybe she's going through a personal crisis and doesn't have the emotional bandwidth for anyone else right now. Or yes, maybe she's reconsidering the relationship, but even then, her silence could be her processing her own feelings, not a deliberate attempt to hurt you. Instead of overanalyzing, practice acceptance. Accept that you don't have all the information right now. Accept that her behavior might not be about you at all. And most importantly, accept that whatever is happening, you can handle it with dignity and grace. This doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. It means understanding that some questions don't have immediate answers, and that's okay. It means trusting the process of life enough to say, I don't need to figure everything out right now. Clarity will come in its own time. When you stop overanalyzing, you reclaim mental and emotional energy that you can direct toward positive areas of your life. You free yourself from the prison of constant speculation. And paradoxically, this mental freedom often leads to greater clarity about the situation than all the analysis in the world. Moving on to mistake number 3, trying to make her jealous. Now, I know this one is tempting. When someone withdraws their attention from us, there's a natural impulse to show them what they're missing. So men will suddenly post pictures with other women or talk loudly about their exciting plans within earshot of mutual friends who might relay the information. I'm going to be very direct with you about this strategy. It's childish, it's transparent, and it almost never works the way you hope. Playing these kinds of games signals emotional immaturity and insecurity. It tells her that you're more interested in manipulating her feelings than addressing whatever real issues might exist in the relationship. I remember once posting a photo with a female friend, carefully angling the shot to make it look more intimate than it was, hoping word would get back to the woman who was ignoring me. Not only did this not draw her back, but it damaged my friendship with the person in the photo, who rightfully felt used as a prop in my emotional drama. Double loss. Instead of trying to provoke jealousy, focus on genuinely living your best life. Not for show, not as a strategy, but because you deserve happiness regardless of any one relationship status. The distinction is crucial. One approach comes from lack and insecurity, the other comes from abundance and self-respect. When you focus on your genuine well-being and growth, something interesting happens. You actually become more attractive, not just to her, but to everyone around you. People are naturally drawn to those who are centered, purposeful, and content within themselves. So by abandoning manipulation in favor of authentic living, you're not just taking the moral high ground, you're actually taking the most effective path forward as well. And let me tell you something else about trying to make someone jealous. Even in the rare cases where it seems to work, what it actually does is trigger attachment anxiety, not genuine attraction or affection. Do you really want someone to come back to you out of fear rather than desire, out of insecurity rather than genuine appreciation? I hope not, because relationships built on such foundations are unstable and ultimately unsatisfying. Now let's discuss mistake number 4, taking her silence personally and reacting with anger. When someone ignores us, especially someone we care deeply about, it can feel like rejection, and rejection hurts. In fact, neuroscience has shown that social rejection activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. So it's natural to feel hurt when someone isn't responding to you. But too often, men convert that hurt into anger. They send accusatory messages. I guess I know where I stand now, or thanks for showing your true colors, or even more explicit expressions of rage. I've done this myself, sending lengthy, emotionally charged messages that essentially attacked her character because I felt wounded by her silence. This reaction is understandable from a psychological perspective. Anger feels more empowering than hurt in the moment, but it's deeply counterproductive. Lashing out might give you a temporary sense of having regained control, but it actually accomplishes the opposite. It shows that her behavior has such power over you that it can cause you to lose emotional control. Moreover, expressing anger in this context rarely addresses the real issue at hand. It doesn't create understanding, it creates distance. It doesn't solve problems, it compounds them. And perhaps most importantly, it can never be fully taken back. Words spoken or written in anger may linger in her mind long after you've calmed down and regretted them. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to recognize the hurt without converting it to anger, to sit with the discomfort of not being responded to, and to handle that discomfort with maturity. If you feel yourself getting angry, step away from your phone or computer, go for a walk, talk to a friend, write in a journal. Do whatever helps you process those emotions constructively rather than destructively. Then remember that your reaction to her silence says more about you than her silence says about her. By responding with emotional maturity rather than reactivity, you demonstrate strength of character. You show that while you may be affected by others' actions, you are not controlled by them. This leads us to mistake number 5, possibly the most damaging of all, neglecting your self-worth. When someone ignores you, especially someone whose opinion you value highly, there's a tendency to question your own value. You start wondering what's wrong with you, what you lack, why you weren't enough to maintain her interest or attention. I've been down this dark road more times than I'd care to admit. I've looked in the mirror and seen only flaws. I've replayed past interactions and cringed at things I said or did, convinced that my unworthiness was the reason for her withdrawal. This kind of thinking is not just painful, it's poisonous. Your worth as a human being is intrinsic. It doesn't increase when someone responds to your text, and it doesn't decrease when they don't. Your value isn't determined by another person's attention or lack thereof. This might sound like a simple concept intellectually, but emotionally, it can be one of the hardest lessons to truly internalize. When she ignores you, that's not the time to question your worth. It's the time to reaffirm it. It's the time to remind yourself of your strengths, your accomplishments, your positive qualities. It's the time to engage with people who do see and appreciate your value. It's the time to invest in activities that make you feel capable and confident. And here's something crucial to understand. Maintaining your sense of self-worth isn't just good for you, it's actually essential for healthy relationships. People who value themselves attract partners who value them too. Conversely, people who are willing to compromise their dignity and self-respect in pursuit of someone's attention often find themselves in relationships where they're undervalued and taken for granted. Now, I want to pause here and address something important. Some of you might be thinking, but what if I did something wrong? What if her ignoring me is justified? That's a fair question, and it shows self-awareness to consider it. If you know you've made a mistake, if you've broken a promise, been insensitive, or acted in a way that breached trust, then yes, her distance might be a direct response to that. In such cases, a sincere apology is appropriate. Not a self-flagellating plea for forgiveness, not a manipulative attempt to regain attention, but a genuine acknowledgement of your mistake and a commitment to do better. Something like, I've been reflecting on our last conversation, and I realize now that what I said was hurtful. I'm truly sorry, and I understand if you need some time. But even then, after you've made a sincere apology, the principles we've discussed still apply. You still shouldn't bombard her with messages. You still shouldn't try to make her jealous. You still shouldn't analyze every detail of her behavior. And you absolutely still shouldn't neglect your self-worth. Making a mistake doesn't make you unworthy of respect from others or from yourself. Now, let's talk about what you should do when she ignores you beyond avoiding these 5 mistakes. The first and most important thing is to focus on your own growth and well-being. This isn't just a distraction strategy, it's a recognition that regardless of what happens with this particular relationship, becoming the best version of yourself is always the right path. So what does that look like in practical terms? It means maintaining and strengthening your physical health through exercise and proper nutrition. It means nurturing your mind through learning and creative pursuits. It means deepening your existing relationships with family and friends. It means advancing in your career or education. It means exploring your spiritual side, whatever that means to you personally. These aren't just activities to fill time while you wait for her to respond. They're investments in yourself that will pay dividends regardless of what happens with her. And paradoxically, by focusing authentically on your own growth rather than on regaining her attention, you often become more attractive, not just to her, but to everyone. Another important action is to practice genuine detachment. Now, detachment doesn't mean not caring. It means caring without clinging. It means recognizing that while you may want a certain outcome, your happiness and self-worth aren't dependent on achieving it. This kind of detachment isn't cold or indifferent. It's actually a form of wisdom and emotional maturity. It's understanding that you can only control your own actions and responses, not someone else's. It's recognizing that sometimes the very act of trying to hold on too tightly to someone pushes them further away. I remember learning this lesson the hard way. There was a woman I was deeply interested in who had begun to pull away. The more I sensed her withdrawal, the more I tried to pull her back, with long messages, with gifts, with constant availability. But all this did was create pressure that pushed her further away. It was only when I finally stepped back, focused on my own life, and genuinely accepted that the relationship might not work out, that things began to shift. This brings me to another important point: timing and patience. In our instant gratification culture, we expect immediate responses and quick resolutions. But human emotions and relationships don't always work on our preferred timelines. Sometimes the space created by her silence is exactly what's needed for both of you to gain clarity. I know waiting is hard. I know the uncertainty can feel unbearable at times, but rushing the process rarely leads to the outcome you want. Give her the time she seems to be asking for. Give yourself time too. Time to reflect, to grow, to center yourself. And while you're giving that time and space, pay attention to what this situation might be teaching you. Every relationship challenge, whether it ultimately leads to reconciliation or separation, contains lessons if we're willing to see them. Maybe her silence is highlighting communication patterns that need to be addressed. Maybe it's revealing differences in attachment styles or expectations. Maybe it's showing you areas where you need to develop greater emotional resilience. Whatever the lesson might be, approaching the situation with curiosity rather than just anxiety creates the possibility for growth. The question changes from, how do I get her to respond to me, to, what can I learn from this experience? That shift in perspective is powerful,